With that, we'll move on to consent calendar. Item 5, all items are considered routine to be and were implemented at an earlier council meeting and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested. As you see, we have items A through E. Is there anything that somebody wants to have completely removed for a separate vote? Councilmember Mason.
Yeah, I did email Melissa Clerk Thurman earlier around the minutes and a discrepancy in the minutes. She suggested that we table the minutes until the next council meeting. So 5C, and then 5D. If we could just have I just have a comment on 5D when we have a moment.
Okay, so asking for 5C to be tabled until the next council meeting, and then 5D for comments. So I'm seeing nothing for separate vote. Is there anything else other than that? Vice Mayor Medina.
Yeah, I apologize. That was 5D as in dog or B as in body?
D as in dog is what I wrote down.
Excellent. Because I thought it was interesting that receive update, and it wasn't. I was expecting like a verbal update, which we normally do, because I do have a couple questions on it. So then I guess it would be pulling item D for some questions.
Okay, D has already been, well, you're saying pulled for questions. Okay, yeah, not a separate vote. Okay, anything else from colleagues? So right now we would have items A, B, and E are okay. C has been asked to have it tabled. May need to take action on that, but let's go to item D. And that is receive update on the city's response efforts to COVID-19. And Councilmember Mason, here's the time for your comments, please.
Yeah, thank you. And just an update on the council comments from the last meeting. I had requested an update on the city's efforts around staff. And I know that, and that was in response to one of the public comments we received. And although we did receive, and I thank staff for the plans, we received hundreds of pages of plans and with their attachments around the guidelines. At this point, as a policy making council, I think the question really is around whether what are we looking at for staff as everybody returns to work. And when I say returns to work, I mean maybe somebody who might be telecommuting full time, or just for staff who has already returned to work. Is the city looking at direction from council, or is the city already working on a plan around requirements for testing weekly or vaccination requirements? It'd be good to know where the city is with that. I know the president went from requiring regular testing for those non-vaccinated to last week requiring testing requiring full vaccinations of the executive branch, and even extended that to some of the contractors. So, and a number of cities are now requiring vaccinations for their employees. And I'd really just like to know where the city stands, and then so that we as a council have a better idea of where we need to either initiate some action. If it's not already initiated on the staff, maybe staff is working on something that's coming back to us for a vote. Or at this point, whether I should just go ahead and request that this item be agendized for the next meeting so we can have a full discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor Medina, why don't I have you go next, if that's okay?
Yeah, that's fine. So it is great that the vaccination rates in the county are on the high side, in the 90s. I was wondering if, and these are some questions that were asked previously from the public. Do we have any data on the percentage of city staff that have been vaccinated? And kind of piggyback on Councilwoman Mason's question, where are we going as a city? And any mandates of vaccinations? What's the plan there? Have we contacted our bargaining units to see what their feelings on it? So we used to have countywide meetings on COVID, and that went away. And are we waiting for the county to provide us the guidance? So I'd like to hear what staff thinks, what they feel, and then if we need to, then we, as Councilwoman Mason said, we would need to provide some direction if we wanted to take that. So those are my comments and questions.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. City staff, is there anybody who wants to add to the report at this time? Yes, City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Without going into all of the steps that the staff has taken internally, I'll just get straight to the heart of the question, which is, does the city have a mandatory vaccination requirement, and where are we on that? As I informed the City Council, we are looking into a vaccination requirement. We do have a draft of a vaccination policy. We have had communications with the union about that. There are a number of municipalities across the Bay Area and across the country that have implemented vaccination mandates. Within our county, nor do a number of the cities. I think there's only actually one city in the county that has a vax mandate. We are in conversations with the other cities, and frankly, we're squarely in line with where I believe most of the cities are, and I've talked to almost all of the city managers in the county and offered to be a leader in a countywide program. As the council knows and the public knows, that the president recently announced and directed OSHA to develop vaccination requirements for employers over 100,000 that will apply to the city of San Bruno. We do have our draft policy that we are evaluating. We are socializing internally, and we will look toward the OSHA guidelines so we don't roll out a program that then needs tweaks. We very early on offered testing and voluntary testing that continues to be available. We are also in the process of upscaling our testing to have that available at all job sites and on a mandatory basis. And so there are a number of policies that I know the council has received that have been active, and absolutely the city of San Bruno is squarely in line with where the vast majority of municipalities are, which are the going tide that I believe in will be for vaccination requirements. And so we're absolutely evaluating that. As I mentioned, we have a draft policy that is being socialized. And yes, communications have occurred with the union.
And City Manager, you had said 100,000. Was that the correct number as far as those who have employments of over 100,000?
I'm sorry, it's 100. If I said 100,000, I was
no problem.
Sadly mistaken and not thinking clearly.
No, it's not a problem. Just for clarity for all that obviously we have the city of San Bruno and a lot of municipalities in the county, not all, do have over 100 employees. So OSHA's regulations and standards would set those guidelines also for the city as well. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Let's see. I have. Let me. Councilmember Salazar had his hand up, and then we'll go to the city manager. Then we'll go to the vice mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just, I wanted to make a point that it is important for us as elected council members and representatives of the community to understand that although we're a policy-making body, we are not privy to making every policy decision for the city. And I think it's important that we understand that there are some delineations where clearly it's in the public's interest that professional staff make decisions and not elected people. And I make that comment because, if we look at what's happening nationwide, where elected people are in positions where they can make public safety decisions, it's been a disaster, and it's been so haphazard in the way different states have chosen to approach what we do with this pandemic. And even within our own state, we see political people bending to the will of the public and making decisions not necessarily based on the science, which is what we should be doing, but rather on what might be popular, or what might keep us in office. So I just wanted to put that out there, just sort of as a cautionary note that there are clearly cases where we, as elected people, have to defer to professional staff, and we have to allow the people that are closest to the details and frankly free to make the tough decisions, even when there's something that we wouldn't necessarily go along with. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think our staff has been doing a great job in managing this this disaster that was thrust on us, and our city manager, who's also during these situations wears the hat of our emergency services coordinator, has been very on top of making sure that we're addressing the issues. And our public safety staff has also been very engaged, very responsive. And so I just want to make sure that we don't go down a path where we start trying to second guess what might be happening because we're hearing loud voices in the community that may derail the city's best efforts. So I just wanted to offer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. City Manager, did you have something you wanted to opine on?
There was another question. Thank you, Mayor. There was another question by Council Member Medina, which is, are we ready to release the stats that we do have on vaccinations of city employees? We do have information on city employees that are vaccinated. At this point, we do not have the complete universe. And so we will be acquiring that information as we roll out our vaccination requirements. But at this point, I do not have that information to respond right now to Councilmember Medina's question on what percentage of staff are vaccinated. I think it's also, and thank you, Councilmember Salazar, for making those comments. I think it's also mindful to know that, like all municipalities, we've been going through a roller coaster of requirements. There was a brief period where there was a benefit to providing your employer with your vaccination status. And we, in a lot of municipalities and corporations, had employees do that. We know that since that time, people have been vaccinated, but have not provided us with that information. So we want to have a process to collect that information to ensure that we are releasing accurate information, so there is not a misunderstanding when data is released on the vaccination status of employees, because that is critical information. We would not want people to make decisions on if they're going to utilize city services or city emergency services based on incomplete data. And so recognize that we are having those conversations, and it is absolutely not just me. The city's emergency operations center is active, has been active for the last year and a half, and your fire chief, your police chief, as well as all your HR personnel and personnel from across the city are in meetings dealing with these challenging decisions and are working sort of dutifully to develop policy that makes sense for the organization and that protects everyone's public health. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting close to anything to be too concerned about in addressing Councilman Salazar's question. The science is there. The best way to protect your community is to get vaccinated. So that's what the science says. I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember Mason?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate Councilmember Salazar's comments and want to hopefully rest assured that that is not any of the intentions here. I think the intentions here are to save lives, especially those of our employees. And I think that what's important to note is that we had not received a public update on any of the recommendations or anything that was being worked on within the city. And so what I want to make sure of is that as a council, as I said in the beginning, if the city manager needs our support, that he has it, and that if he doesn't need our support and he's going to bring something to us at a later time, then we will wait. But what I want to make sure of is that we are being as supportive as possible, and that if we need to take some action, then we also need to know that, but so that we're not kind of contradicting the work that each other's hand is doing within our system of checks and balances. And I also want to reiterate Councilmember Salazar's comments that I do think the city has done a great job up until now, and I hope we continue to prioritize the safety of our staff. Thank you.
And hopefully I'll close on this, and then we'll get back to adopting some consent calendar. You know, this is unprecedented, of course, obviously, and I think I do appreciate Councilmember Salazar. I believe every member of the council today and in the past. I believe that the administrative staff, department heads, the assistant manager, the city manager, city attorney, etc., always have had and have the well-being of the staff. I don't think anyone would do anything with malice intent or not caring, put any of our staff at risk. There are avenues for staff to come forward, and I think I like more the adage of we're here to assist if called upon, where we can. But however, they are the professionals. They are dealing with the county. They are dealing with the community, and as you know, Dr. Morrow has been making the standards, and the county was leading that charge, and now they deferred to the state. So in essence, I think we have to allow them who are in those areas day to day and have faith and confidence in our team. But I'll just reiterate, I think that all members of the council are here and want to assist if necessary or needed to ensure a good process for staff, for their well-being and safety, and also just to know that we're here supporting the senior leadership team as well as our city employees. So with that, what I'm going to ask is that we approve consent items A, B, D, and E. If there is action to go ahead and approve those. And what I was going to do is have C and make a motion to have that table. So any action from council?
I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A, B, D, and E.
Thank you. So there's a second. Okay. Hamilton, Medina, motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Aye.
Councilmember Mason.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Rico Medina.
Aye. And now we have item C, which was the regular meeting minutes for the regular meetings of October the 24th, 2021. And if we can have, if council wishes to table that, as was indicated by council.
I'll motion to table the minutes to the next council meeting.
Through the chair, before we take a vote, would it be okay if we got just a high-level understanding of what was inaccurate? Because if we do delay this, then the minutes aren't published, and there's a delay in having that on the website. So if it's something minor that we can correct as part of the motion, I would prefer that. But if it's something more substantive, then I'll go along with tabling.
We did have a motion from Mason and seconded from Hamilton, which was on the question. Councilmember Salazar proposed that. I also believe the city clerk is now dealing with the election. And so I know she may not be available, but Councilmember Mason, did you want to expound a little, or is it as far as the minutes that can something be corrected, or does it need more in-depth review by the clerk and others?
So the minutes are already posted as part of this packet. One of the changes would be that the council comments aren't complete. And so as much as there's we have these action minutes that we're still discussing as part of our policies and procedures, we've never really talked about what should and shouldn't be included in the council comments. And because not all council comments are agendized, I do think that it's really important that they be part of the record. So I messaged our clerk earlier, and she said for suggested changes to the minutes, I would suggest recommending the item be pulled from consideration and moved to the next meeting. And so I'm following her recommendation.
And I believe she is not present for her other duties as the elections officer. So with that said, we're gonna, any other on the question? So we have a motion and a second, Mason Hamilton, to table the minutes to the next regular council meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina? Mayor Rico Medina?
Aye. Okay. Let's see. Thank you. Look, right now, we approve the consent tabling the one item, but we also have a member of the public, and we'll say that it's open to under consent because we've kind of gone through that. And so if there's any other members of the public that wish to speak, if you could raise your hand, and I'd ask if we can bring Mr. Evangelist into the meeting, please, for the 3 minutes.
There's one hand up, and that's Jim Evangelist. And Jim, you're in the room. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm just, I would like to address Councilmember Salazar's comments regarding the city's, the elected officials' responsibilities to overseeing the COVID response of our city government. We elected you as council members to make these difficult decisions. It would be like passing off, I mean, you have access to the same experts that you would rely upon the city manager to give you the information on. I think it's really shirking of duties to allow these. I don't believe that, for instance, I would be surprised if anybody on staff is any more of an expert about how to respond to this COVID than you are as the elected official. I think it's really your responsibility to make these difficult decisions. So please, I'm beseeching all council members to take seriously our city government's response to its workforce and keeping everybody safe, because ultimately it keeps the public safe as well. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm seeing no other publics up, and that will conclude consent.